But one of the things that we hear frequently is we're going back to the drawing board. Our traditional sales model, rethinking everything, our traditional sales model and our sales process has no longer been effective. This actually was told to me by a data center executive just a few weeks ago. Their quote was heavily edited to protect their confidentiality. And there's a lot of disruptive things that are going on in the IT space on many, many different levels. Cloud, mobile devices, cybersecurity, there's a lot of business model changes that are going on as well. But in many ways, what we're talking about here is the way that people research and make purchase decisions for colocation has changed drastically, and that was the frustration this particular person mentioned. So how do we get in front of the ideal clients that we want to reach for colocation providers? What do you use right now? What's been most effective? So if we think about where the buyer's journey was, let's roll back the clock 10 years ago to around 2007. Back then, direct mail was really powerful. People were advertising still in print journals. Your sales team made a lot of cold calls, and they sent a lot of cold emails to people that didn't necessarily want those emails. Back then, sales controlled access to a lot of the information. So if you were looking to buy data center related services, colocation related services, you didn't have much of a choice. You had to talk to sales early on. However, there was a big thing that changed in 2007 that started to fuel a whole bunch of growth in a lot of different business models outside of the IT space. Anyone have any idea what was a big seminal event that changed in 2007, and what are all those people doing? They're lined up. Oh, guess? iPhone, yep, it all changed with the iPhone, and I think I probably gave that away. No, I didn't give that away on the slide, but it's an excellent, excellent perceptive guess. And I personally, regardless of how you feel about the iPhone, and whether you're whether you're very loyal to Apple, whether you're very loyal to Google, to Android, it was a very seminal event that happened in 2007, because that's around the same time that people realized that they were getting fed up with getting interrupted by commercials. They started to pay for Netflix and Hulu to be able to fast forward through that. TiVo, DVRs became a lot more popular. How many of you still watch commercials on TV? How many of you fast forward through commercials on TV? It's not just TV commercials that people are trying to block out. What about radio commercials? I don't remember the year that Sirius XM launched, but there's a whole bunch of us now that pay $10, $20 a month to not have to listen to commercials anymore. There's a whole bunch of different business models that are all about scratching the itch that people don't want to be interrupted anymore. How many of you will actually answer a phone call now without looking at caller ID? There was a time 10 or 20 years ago where people actually paid extra for caller ID, and it was considered a luxury. Now it's a necessity. No one's answering the phone anymore. So this changes a lot of the business model. Where are we today? Now, back then they engaged early. It was like 10 or 20% of the way through the decision-making process. Now people do crazy amounts of research for colocation and IT services on search engines and social media. All the questions that you're asked in person at a conference like this, that you're asked in meetings with clients and prospects, that you're asked by phone, these are all very, very similar questions that people are going to Google and Siri and Bing and Alexa and Cortana and Siri, and they're asking them all day long. And they're doing so much more research that by the time they get to you, it's no longer 10 or 20% of the way through the decision-making process. It's 70%. In some cases, even more of their decision has already been made by doing self-directed research. And this is an enormous challenge for traditional legacy sales departments. They don't hold the leverage anymore. It's a lot more buyer-centric. And we expect that this is going to only become pronounced. More pronounced as things go on, and that 70% factor is going to become an even bigger deal. This buyer's journey for colocation has changed drastically, and unless you believe that there's going to be a resurgence in people reading print magazines and print newspapers and using printed phone books, and people are going to wake up saying, gee, I wish more people would cold call me today. I don't get enough spam. I wish there was more spam. Unless you actually believe that those trends are going to roll backwards, this is only going to become a bigger issue that our industry needs to contend with. So the question is your sales and marketing playbook living in the past, and you basically inadvertently spamming people? So that's a big deal, is making sure that you get in front of the current buyer's journey and make sure that you're there early enough to be influencing their buying criteria, influencing how they look at these things, and earning a seat at the table as a trusted advisor.